All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Prepper Talk Radio. I am your host, Scott, and I'm joined with Shane and Paris as usual. And we have a special guest today. We have Todd Nielsen, who is the owner of Nielsen Training Consulting. He's got 25 years under his belt, and not just his normal belt, but his LEO belt with the baton, the gun, the cuffs, and all the other cool tools, including the radio. He was a law enforcement officer for 25 years. And he's also the owner of BPMF Training, which is down in not southern Utah, but southern Utah County. So if you guys are local and listening, you need to get over there and check it out. It stands for Be Present and Mindful and Fit. Is that
Be
right?
Present, Mindful, and Fit.
Dude, that last one is the one I'm working on. I've always been pretty present. Mindfulness. My fitness has been off the rails, and I'm trying to get it back. And so I took a job specifically that's forcing me to be going every day, and I'm doing about 10 to 12 miles on my feet every day.
Oof,
and it's been fantastic, to say the least, because I'm also testing out gear as I'm doing it.
Yeah,
testing out headlamps, testing out different types of shoes and backpacks and just different things I'm testing while I'm working, which has been kind of an eye-opener as to where some of my gaps are. But being fully fit, before we got on the show, that's what I was talking to Paris and Shane about. And I'm just like, I'm not there. I am so not there right now.
It's a struggle for a lot of people, because literally a lot of people get so busy in their lives that, you know, their fitness is one of the things that gets sacrificed every day, you know. And then when you start thinking about how important your fitness really is, you know, you think about being involved in an armed encounter. You know, if your resting heart rate is 85, you know, you're going to basically double your resting heart rate when you're under stress, and you're risking a heart attack just by being under stress.
That's a good point.
So when you look at it from that perspective, it's like, holy crap, that changes a lot of things.
Well, that too, because if you eat, you know, in a busy world, we're eating things that are causing our mental acuity to be, I think, dulled as well. So, you know, what you put in is a huge indicator of what comes out. And that's not just physical food. That's also mental and emotional food. That we need to feed ourselves with good, positive things, because what comes in goes back out, and we gotta, and not in the way that everybody's thinking. I know what you're thinking. What comes in comes back out. I mean, we reiterate the things that we do and we have it in our life. So it's important to be eating good things and reading good books, listening to good podcasts like ours, and emotionally too, just having good, strong emotional fitness as well is important.
Yeah, it is. You know, it's like this time of year, it always frustrates me, because I used to literally be able to just walk out in the garden, grab whatever I wanted to eat for lunch, and I knew it was all good quality food, and I'd be good to go for lunch and never even have to walk inside the house. You know, now it's so freaking cold that we don't have the garden anymore, and all the apples are off the trees, and now I've actually got to go in the house to find food.
Oh, that's funny.
You're back to the normal way people live nowadays. Just I gotta go inside to make food. Oh, this sucks. Well, we're glad you're here. We're excited to have this special episode with you today. Just a reminder for the listeners: make sure you're hitting that like and subscribe. Make sure you guys are also on our YouTube. We do post every episode there. If you are following us on YouTube, you're actually going to be entered for a drawing to win a 5-ounce silver bar and a Jase case. If you guys are familiar with Jase Medical, they have a medical antibiotic emergency kit. So if you're traveling, if you're, you know, prepared, you know, you don't have to go see a doctor. If maybe you can't get to a doctor, you've got the medications you need. We're going to be giving away one of those. It's a $250 value once we break 1,000 subscribers, and we're getting closer every day. So make sure you guys are in there, and then also join our group, Emergency Prep and Self-Reliance, on Facebook. And we'll make sure you get into that drawing. So with that, let's jump right into it. I think when we started talking that you were going to be on the show again, I was most excited about the training that you do down American Fork. Can we jump into that? I know we were talking about fitness and what you put into your mind and your body and everything else comes back out, but can we talk about your training, your I'm going to call it an academy of just get stuff done. But
well, it's funny that you call it an academy. I modeled the training facility after the police department's training academy. So it's got a gym in it, it's got a classroom, and it's got a training house in it. And within all those, there's so many different things that we can do just within that building. You know, we can do all the physical stuff, of course. But then in the classroom, we also have a virtual simulator. So we can literally fire laser guns. Like the other night, me and the other owners, we were in there for almost 3 hours and just shooting at different targets and everything else. Literally, my finger started to get so sore that I couldn't even press the trigger anymore, and never have to waste a bullet. It's all lasers. So it's awesome setup that we have there. Plus with the classroom, like last night we had legal use of force class there that was sponsored by the United States Concealed Carry Association. And then like this evening, we're sponsoring a free class for women's self-defense. It's a 2-hour long course that they go through, and then our hand-to-hand guy is going to spend about another hour afterward just teaching the ladies just some good, solid personal self-defense stuff that's going that he teaches that's specific to women that they can use for their own personal defense. You know, and then on the property we also have what we call the kill house, where it's about a 1,200 square foot building that has multiple rooms and doors and all that stuff on it. Where next month I'll be doing what we call home defense close quarters battle, where we train people how to harden up their house to set it up so that they can have kind of their Alamo area or their last stand or safe room area, and if they need to, how they can go through and learn and know how to clear their own house to make sure that the boogeyman's not in there, or if they have to go get food someplace, they can clear an area to make sure that the area is safe for them to go get the food, you know, if it's the end of days type thing, so that they can safely go in and get the food and not harm themselves.
Or like if a burglar comes in and I need to go clear to my kids and get my kids back to the safe room, I can do that too. Is that kind of the training too?
That's the primary focus of that class specifically, is getting your family rallied into one location so that you know you're all safe, and makes it real easy for law enforcement and everybody to get into the house and make sure everything's clear, especially when you can tell them exactly the location that you're at.
That is so cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's funny because like this would be a much better way of doing it, but like I remember my brother-in-law, when I visited him, he's military. I visited him in North Carolina one year, and he was like, here's what I've taught my kids to do. If there's someone breaking into my house, I shoot out the window with his shotgun. I shout out the window. They all know to lay on the ground and slide under their beds. He then goes and clears the house. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, what about shooting out what's the point of shooting out the window? He's like, well, it's loud. It's going to notify the neighbors. Someone's going to call 911. And he's like, the shot that I'm using is not going to go far enough that it's going to hurt anybody, because shotguns just don't do that unless you've got a slug, right? Yeah. And I'm like, he's going through and breaking everything down. I'm like, that could actually work.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'd found nothing in his plan that I'd really argue much against, but I was like, I need to get some shotguns.
Right.
But
and then learn how to use them.
I would feel much better though having a safe room, right, for my kid and my wife. But yeah, it was kind of fascinating to hear kind of his plan and what he does, and then, you know, you've probably, I don't know if you've met Stan Pruitt. He's one of the guys that we talked to quite a bit. He's with Urban Survivors, but he's up north.
Yep.
He does a lot of room clearing trainings and stuff like that. So it's fun to, like, now we've got a guy down south, closer to Paris and Shane. Unfortunately, not for me, but they can go and Paris has actually come down to one of your classes, or a couple of them already, I guess.
Yeah, he's been to a couple.
I did one in Eagle Mountain. I did the range 8-hour handgun course. I did that one. And that was incredible. just learning how to shoot at different angles, different locations, really, it's one thing to think about, well, anybody can draw a gun and just shoot, but then you got to figure out, well, where's that bullet going to go? And you got to make sure that you're not, what's beyond the target, what's around the target, and making sure that you're shooting properly so that you're going to hit the target you want. It's not other things around the target that you don't want. And so it was really good. And one of the coolest things I had where you had us do was where it was like we got right up against the target. Like we were like elbows, like I put my elbow up against the target, and then I drew and I shot the gun like it was inches from my body, and just the pushback and the air and the gunpowder and the feeling of shooting a gun at a target that was literally inches away from me was an experience that I was like, ooh, I want to do that again. It was cool. And then all the things you taught us about why and what to do if that ever happens. Because, if somebody's wrestling you to the ground and they're trying to grab your firearm and you're fighting with them to get it, you're going to have a close quarters fire, potentially.
So Todd, here's my question for you. I hear a lot of different recommendations, and I have my own opinions as well. What is your preferred firearm for defense in your home? Is it a shotgun? Is it a handgun? Is it an AR? I've heard all the arguments.
If it's inside, I'm probably going to go to a pistol because it's super manipulable. And the distances inside my home, I know I can easily hit because I don't have anything over 75 feet. So, it makes it pretty easy, even at the extreme angles. The longest shot I'd ever have to take is maybe 28 yards. And I know I can hit anything I need to within that 28 yards. However, if I kind of get the inkling that there's multiple people or that there may be somebody outside and somebody inside, then I'm going straight to an AR. Okay. That I was kind of born and bred on that with the police department. So I'm so familiar. It's basically an extension of my personality, not just my person, but my personality.
So would the shotgun be the third on your list then?
It depends on what it is that is going on. Like I have livestock out in my area, and with livestock and everything, a slug might actually be the better part. If I hear something trying to attack some of the livestock, like we've had mountain lions in my area, and I'd much rather take out a mountain lion with a slug than a little 9mm round or a
223. Yeah.
No,
and I totally agree with you. I think handgun is for me is my. I'm definitely more of a handgun guy than a rifle guy, and it's something I have on me all the time, whether I'm in the house or wherever. Right, so I don't have to go looking for grab the shotgun out of the closet or the AR out of the safe. Handgun is always right there and easy to stage, easy to.
Yep.
It's just always like you. It's an extension of not just an extension of my arm. It's an extension of my personality, like you say. I really like how you describe that. Absolutely, yeah.
I watched
not as good with the AR.
I watched a guy on, I think it was either TikTok or it was Instagram, but he said that he would never use a handgun because, and this is maybe just to kind of help us understand it, but one shot of buckshot would shoot out like 8 or 10 or whatever rounds that are about the size of a 9mm bullet. And in order to stop somebody, you'd have to pull the trigger 8 or 9 times with a handgun, but with a shotgun, it's just one shot, 8 or 9 go in and potentially just neutralize the threat right away. Because there are people especially if you're hopped up on some kind of drug, you can take a few rounds before you go down. Is that true?
Yeah, I've seen people shot 28 times and still fighting.
Wow.
So I think it comes back to two things from what I gather from both of you, from all of you, is it's not just what you're using, but who you're using it against.
Right? Correct.
Those are the two things that I think anyone needs to take into consideration. Like if you're not proficiently trained with a handgun enough that you can acquire your target from across your house and hit your mark, right? And then if that's not something you're constantly practicing, shotgun's probably a better solution for you.
Yeah.
But if your handgun if you're that proficient with your handgun, that's your best solution.
Yeah, see, here's another thing to take into account, in my opinion, is that, yes, you have a 2 3/4 inch shell with 9mm slugs in there, 9mm balls in there. You're accountable for every one of those balls wherever they go.
Yep.
Right. So unless you've patterned your gun, your shotgun, you know how it's going to shoot at what distance within your house. That's I think it takes more. Not just more training, more practice, but more thoughtfulness. And when my heart's pumping, it's hard to think, unless you're like you, Todd, you've been doing this for 25 years in police department. I've seen plenty of videos where police are out there shooting and everybody's shooting back and forth and nobody gets hit. Right.
Yeah.
And a police officer who gets a lot more training than I do has, I think, a higher chance than hit their target than I do. So, what are my chances if I don't stay calm and practiced and know exactly what I'm doing? It's low percentage, and thus the reason for training and practice.
Yeah. One thing, especially like with the shotgun, if you have a 2 3/4 round, you could have 8 or 9 32 caliber pellets that are going to come flying out of there. Or if you run the 3-inch, the magnums out of there, you could have up to 12 32 caliber bullets now flying through the air. And if you don't know what that projectile or what that particular round's going to do coming out of your shotgun, you could hit an innocent party. You could perforate a wall and go through and hit somebody that you know, love, and care about. So there's a whole lot of variables when you start talking about fighting inside building, especially your own home, that really come into play when you start talking about that kind of stuff or even start thinking about it.
Yeah, so obviously the best line of defense is to harden your house enough that they don't even get in, right? That you have time to stage yourself at the entry, and if they get in, you have much better chance of them keeping them out of them coming through the threshold, right?
Yeah,
and really defeating that threat before it really becomes a serious threat inside the house.
Yep, exactly. So that and understand the response time of the local law enforcement that are in your area. For us, it's going to be a matter of about 5 or 6 minutes from time of call before law enforcement's going to be arriving at my house.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
knowing that you've got to be able to defend yourself for that period of time, that's pretty huge, and then if we start thinking about, if we've had a massive earthquake or something like that, and I'm trying to defend my home, it could be several hours that I'm going to have to defend my home with somebody trying to break into it.
I saw the coolest house actually just a few days ago that I delivered to, and it had a L-shaped choke point to the front door.
Yes.
And I was like, and there were no windows along that route. And I was like, I was delivering. I'm like, this is horrible. And then as I dropped off the package at the door, I turned around. I'm like, I see it now. And the guy had a 2A sticker on his truck. And so I was like, I see what he did.
Yep.
But it was brilliant. I mean, like, it's a complete choke point, and you have to go through a gate halfway through.
Oh.
And so it's like that gate closes on you, you're trapped.
Yep.
Bad guy go down, right?
Yep.
And I was just like, this guy knows what he's doing. Like, he did some modifications to his house, but it's like we all need to take a little bit longer look at our surroundings and say, okay, what can we do to better prepare our home? Better protect our families. And it's like having conversations like this makes you think about it. Because if you don't, it's hard to like, oh, a bad guy just came into my house, and what do I do if I haven't gone through those scenarios and practiced those scenarios or even thought about those scenarios? Yeah. Like, first we need to start thinking about those scenarios. So do you go through with people? Do you have them kind of draw out their floor plan and like look at like what's the best place for me to be in these types of scenarios, or what do you really do to help people really understand?
The first thing that I have people do is literally draw out their floor plan of their house and the size of their property around it, because that's another major factor is the curtilage that's around your house could make it so that it's harder for you to actually get a good clear shot. My grandfather used to joke, the best neighborhood's a clean line of fire. And in all honesty, he's not wrong. If you try and attack me from the front, I've got a clean line of fire just about every angle that I need to defend my home. And when we start explaining that to people of, okay, where's the trees, where are your fence posts, where's your driveway, and what's the material on the exterior of your house? Is it stucco? Is it brick? Is it just aluminum siding? Is it rock? What materials are it? Because all that stuff becomes part of your ballistic package as to what you should be able to defend against. So
what do you recommend? What do you recommend for the exterior?
I like rock.
Rock?
Real rock, not synthetic, man.
Not synthetic, legit
not
rock.
Like lava rock though, right? Like not big giant lava rock panels.
No. If you could use like granite or marble are my favorite because they're the hardest rock, but they're also the most expensive. So it's not really economically feasible for most people.
But brick will really slow down even like an M855 round, right? Even like a penetrator round.
Oh yeah,
significant. And I wouldn't think most criminals are going to be shooting that. They're just going to shoot the cheap stuff, right? They're going to shoot
whatever they can steal.
Exactly. So yeah, I think brick is I think for me, that's what I have on the front of my house. Fortunately,
that's what I have on mine too. And to be honest with you, brick is sufficient. But if you want to go the full tilt, rock.
Yeah,
gotcha. That's good to know.
That's serious stuff.
And then you can also use they manufacture bulletproof fiberglass 4x8 sheets you can put on the exterior of your house as well.
Oh yeah,
little pricey though.
It gets expensive.
Get expensive.
Everything anymore is pretty pricey.
Yeah,
so a little more than pricey. That's fantastic. This is kind of for me. This is really fun. This is kind of a treat to talk about this.
Even thinking about which way your doors swing. Do they swing inward? Do they swing outward? Do they swing to the left? Do they swing to the right? Or is it better just not to have the door there? Just have an open doorway.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start thinking about all that kind of stuff, it's like, okay, yeah, this is kind of an important thing. One of the things that really drew me to my house that I'm currently living in is I have a hallway that has 8 doorways on it, and 6 of them are opposing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 3 T intersections that somebody would have to cross, or I could be hiding in any one of those to take them on.
Right, because the best place to be within a room is 90 degrees from the entry, correct? So
yep.
So that gives you the most amount of time to react to when someone comes in there, or to I guess to attack someone who's coming in the room as well, right?
Yep.
Instead of just defend.
Yeah, and then my dogs are awesome because they just want to bark at everything.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, yeah, but do they bite everything?
One of them will. Problem is, he's just going to be annoying to you. But that at least slows them down enough for me to get a clean shot off.
Oh, that's awesome.
So would you say that if for someone new to this who just starting, would you say it's best place to start is with a handgun or with a rifle or shotgun, or what is the most essential skill to learn first?
What they're most proficient with. So if they're more proficient with a handgun, then a handgun. If they're more proficient with a rifle, then a rifle. If they're more proficient with a shotgun, then a shotgun. If they're a skeet shooter, a shotgun might be the better thing for them.
Mm-hmm.
If they're just a concealed carry holder and they're just learning how to defend themselves and all that kind of stuff, then a handgun might actually be the best bet for them. If they're a hunter, maybe even a bolt action, if they're good and fast with it. Because somebody that's good on a bolt gun, I mean, I know sniper guys that are almost as fast as a semi-auto, but they're going to put a round in each bolt in each eyeball before I hit the ground. So
yeah,
wow.
Start thinking about it from that perspective.
Or even, I guess, a lever gun, right? Because the lever gun in its day was it's like an AR-15, right? It was the high capacity, fast shooting rifle. So I've seen some tactical setups with lever guns that were pretty cool.
Well, if you watch some of these cowboy action shooters with their lever guns, they're dumping 9 rounds in less than 3 seconds. And it's amazing to watch, and they're getting solid hits.
Mm-hmm. I watched some of those, cool. And those quick fire competitions like just astound me. They literally, like, my mind kind of stops and I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Like, I just saw this elderly guy look like he had a cane, set his cane, like he had a stick. He's like wobbling around, and he walks up to the line all wobbly and drops it, and they hit the beeper, and he's like, bop, 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 like just so fast with a revolver.
Yep.
And I'm like, did he just empty his revolver?
Yep.
Like,
is that the way they hit the hammer with their hand, the other hand?
Yeah, and what they're doing is they're actually fanning. Let's see if I can get it. They start with their thumb, then their index finger, their middle finger, their ring finger, and their pinky, and they fan the hammer back. And all they're really doing is holding the trigger down, and they'll literally fire 5 shots in less than a second.
Yeah, and they're grouping
Holy
them like
smokes.
this.
Yeah, and it's little tiny group like this.
Yeah, I'm all. What did he? And then there's the guys that are just the quick draw guys that are just like one shot, and you're like, and it's holstered again. You're like, what just happened?
Well, that brings up another interesting topic as well, is the debate between a semi-automatic or a revolver, right? So for my daughters, I bought them revolvers to start, and one has kept her 38 special, and because it's point and shoot, right? There's no malfunction to it. Yep. Like a semi-automatic, you've got to learn how to clear jams. You've got to learn all different kinds of things with the semi-automatic, which takes more skill, more practice. What is your take on that? Is it do you carry a revolver? Do you carry semi-automatic? I mean, what do you carry?
Well, funny, when I started my law enforcement career, I started with a revolver, and I carried one for almost 3 years. So I'm very proficient with revolvers. One of my buddies, he retired literally 5 years ago with a revolver, a 6-inch Smith & Wesson Model 66. And the guy could literally hit the gnat's butt at 100 yards with that revolver and never miss. And a lot of it, he's like, hey, I got 6 rounds in the gun. That's all I got. So I got to make sure I get my hits. And again, it just comes down to what are you proficient with? If I put a revolver in Jerry Michelik's hand, he's going to smoke just about everybody.
Yep.
And if you're proficient with a revolver and you practice, then hey, use a revolver. If you're proficient with a semi-auto, use a semi-auto.
So again, what's your opinion about full size compared to pocket pistols and such? Scott and I have this debate all the time about and I carry as big a gun as I can physically carry on me. So a full size 4-inch service semi-automatic, but it's really quite trendy, I guess, to carry these compact pistols, and they've come out with some really nice ones, but there's also some really small ones as well. Is it better to have something than nothing, or go big?
It's always better to have something than nothing. The reality of it is, though, the smaller the gun, the more felt recoil that you're going to have. So, like I use my wife as an example. She's 110 pounds dripping wet on a good day. And she likes shooting my 1911s because it's a big, heavy gun with a big, heavy round. And when it goes bang, it cycles through and it's no big deal. But when she shoots her little carry Glock 26, she's like, this thing hurts. It makes a lot of noise. It's jumping all over the place. I'm like, well, you got more bullets. So which one do you want? And that's ultimately what it kind of comes down to is, if you have a small gun, yeah, it's great for concealment, but it's really bad for home defense. If it's home defense, who cares how big it is? Get a nice big one and get a lot of bullets.
Yeah.
So make sure it's either on you or readily accessible.
Yep.
So 45, 9mm. What are you? Are you a 40 or a 40 cal? What are you? What's your debate? What do you carry?
So
1911, you're shooting 45. Is that your competition gun? Is that your everyday carry gun, or?
That's my Safe Queen that I love shooting, just because my entire law enforcement career, I only carried .357 Magnum or 45.
Okay.
I carried a SIG 220 for 12 years, and then I carried Glock 21s after that.
Okay.
So My entire law enforcement career is basically 45. But the reality is, when I started looking at what the ballistics are, modern ammunition and everything else, it made it kind of a no-brainer when you start looking at the expansion rates of a 230 grain, 45 grain bullet, or I'm sorry, 230 grain, 45 ACP round. It expands to almost about 3/4 of an inch when you talk about the expansion going into the human body. But then when you look at the 9mm, the expansion of it going into the body is just a couple of literally couple thousandths of an inch smaller than 3/4 of an inch. So what's better, having more ammunition or having the bigger, a couple of thousandths bigger expansion? So I'm now carrying exclusively 9mm.
Okay, because I know, like you mentioned, you've seen people shot multiple times and still coming. So it's really about shot placement.
Yep.
You could be shooting with a 22 with the right placement, and your weapon's effective. So then it comes down to training and practice and conditioning again.
Yep.
I think another thing that I was, at least mentally, that what I was thinking about with the 9mm, because it's so popular, it's going to be easier to find. So yes. I was telling my daughter about this because we were talking about which guns she should get. And I said, look, if you have a gun but no ammo and you come upon a group of people that you're surviving the zombie apocalypse with, and they've got a bunch of ammo, but they don't have enough guns, you now are a benefit to that group. And if they trust you and you trust them, then you can work together and you can use their ammo and your gun.
Yep.
And if you're just traveling through, zombie apocalypse land and you clear a house, and the likelihood of you finding ammo is, low. But if you do find ammo, it's going to probably be the more common ammo, like the 22 or the 9mm type ammo. So that's why I was like, you know what, I'm going to just go with a more common theme. And so that's what my mentality was about getting 9mm, sticking with my 9mm. I don't know if that makes sense.
9 is just funner to shoot, more fun to shoot. It's, of course, a little less expensive and higher capacity. So when you're out at the range, especially out at the shooting steel out there at the farm, it's so much fun.
Oh yeah,
it's so much fun, and it's less painful on your hand and on your budget.
Well, I would like to see. I think we all need to go shooting now. Last time I went shooting with Shane, he's like, "How far away do you think that is?" And I was probably 100, maybe 100 yards almost. And he pulls out his handgun. He's like, "I can get it." Clink. I hate you. I'm like, wow, that was really good. And I tried, obviously missed, but I don't shoot as much. And I'm like, I need to remedy that. I need to fix that. But it'd be fun to see the both of you shoot some distance with your handguns, and Paris and I can stand there and go,
all right.
Hold on, gentlemen. We have a lot to learn.
I grew up it's funny because I grew up in a household where you don't need a gun. You don't need a gun.
Yeah.
You don't have guns. You don't need a gun. And I was always like, well, what? We don't go hunting. Okay, so you don't need a gun because we don't hunt. But I'm like, well, I want a gun. We should have guns.
Yeah.
And now, like, I've got guns. Well, the ones that I have left that haven't fallen into the ocean when I went on my boating accident. But like, what I do have, I need to get more proficient in, and I've trained quite a bit, but not enough. I train a lot with these. If you can see them, these are dummies. So I'll train with these. My wife and I'll train with these in the house occasionally. We haven't done it as much the last couple of years, but we used to do it a ton. I still do it quite a bit. I need to get her back in the habit, but we would use those for room clearing practice and things like that in our own home.
Mm-hmm.
Get familiar with the terrain, get familiar with where you're going, what you're doing, what you're shooting at, or what you're aiming at, so that we're more capable. But it's funny because if you don't practice, it's not like a bicycle where you can just hop right back on and you're good.
No.
You have to practice to get good again.
And
the reason I bring that up is more for the listeners. It's like, I grew up in a household where you didn't. And so like, I'm way behind a lot of people in my accuracy, in my understandings of, firearms, safety and security. I got that part. Like, I've taken tons of classes in the security side of things, how to take care of and things like that. But it's like the shooting, the hitting your targets consistently takes a lot of time and ammunition.
Yeah.
And the only way to get better at it is to actually keep doing it. And so the benefit of that is then you get to train more on maintaining your sidearm, your firearms,
Yep.
cleaning them out, making sure they're properly lubricated and taken care of. But you guys have to spend the time. You have to find a place where you can go and you can shoot responsibly. And then if it's not in an organized facility, make sure if you're out in the wild, wherever you are, you're cleaning up after yourself. Like that's just responsible. Right.
Yeah.
Make sure you're maintaining everything around you. You're maintaining safety, that you have someone, whether you're shooting in a big group or a small group, someone needs to be marshaling everything.
Yeah.
Well, I think
organized.
I think the biggest part I think about this discussion for me is the why. Why are we even talking about this? Why do you need to? Why is it my opinion that I need to have, and that everyone else should have, a means of defending themselves? If you don't have that why, I mean, what good is your food storage? What good is all the stuff that we preach as preppers? So it's like having a handgun is like having a parachute, right?
Yeah.
You'll only need it if you only need it once. If you don't have it and you need it, you're out of luck. So
yeah.
The answer for me is why not? And so if you can't answer that question, why not? Then you're probably lying to yourself, and your eyes aren't open. We always talk about having eyes to see and ears to hear. That's a big thing for us that we talk about, and being aware of our surroundings, being aware of the condition of the world right now. And I think if we're honest to ourselves, even though we may deny what's really going on, or saying this is never going to happen here, then you're going to find yourself in a sticky situation. So really finding out that why for yourself is, I think, the number one thing. Figure out why. Do you want to take care of your family? Me as a head of the household, that's my number one why. I tell you, is for me, if it were just me, I can run. That's easy enough. I got 2 legs and in a good enough shape where I can just run, but I can't take my whole family sprinting with me to safety.
Right. Well, like I tell people all the time, you got to be situationally aware of everything that's going on around you, and when it's just me that's out and about doing stuff, my response to stuff is going to be a whole lot different than it's going to be if I'm with any of my family members. If it's just me and the wife, that'll be different. If it's me, the wife, and one of the kids, then it's going to be completely different. And just having, and like you're saying, that why, why is it so important for me to know and understand this? Because I want to make sure that I'm going to be able to have the opportunity to be the father that I'm supposed to be for my family and for my kids. I want to make sure that I'm there 100% of the time.
And in our society today, and Shane was alluding to this, our society today, I mean, I don't know what the numbers are, but the number of active shooters that we can come into in our community is increasing. And the opportunity to really actually have the opportunity to defend yourself is more realistic now outside your home even. And so, we kind of focused the whole show mostly about what's inside the home, but as we're out and about in our day-to-day life, there's going to be, I watched a video just the other day. Some random wacko walked into a mental facility and started shooting it up, and some dude just tackled him and grabbed him. And so, knowing if he had a gun, he could have taken him out, but he didn't have a gun. So he tackled him and grabbed him. But either way, you should have training on how to do that, because the likelihood of something like that happening. I mean, Todd, when I did our episode, by the way, Todd and I did an episode on, I think it was episode 215. So if you want to go back and listen to that, you can. But you said something in that episode that was pretty powerful. And you said that 98% of active shooters would stop if there was somebody else that confronted them.
Yeah.
So that's powerful.
Well, yeah, when you start thinking about, and I do a lot of active shooter training with Fight Back Nation and all that kind of stuff too. But the reality of it is, as soon as a person decides that it's their time to go and start doing a mass killing, and if you look at the FBI statistics, the FBI definition of a mass killing or an active shooter is the killing of 3 or more people in one location. Okay, when you start looking at that from that perspective, in reality, we have in the United States an active shooter event every single day.
Wow.
So, I guess that's probably usually gang related.
Well, yeah, or they're going to a party where somebody's pissed off at somebody, you know, and you know the realities of that, you know. But when it hits a school or it hits a shopping mall or some type of open to the public event or something like that, then it actually hits the news. But you know, in Chicago, dude, when you start looking at 28 homicides in a weekend, you know, over a 2-day period, it's like, come on, let's get real here. You know, so when you start looking at what can really happen in your personal life, you know, how many people thought that it was all hunky-dory here in Utah until Trolley Square? You know, and when you start looking at it from that perspective, okay, you know, what am I going to do to make sure I protect myself? You know, I just had a student of mine who's been a student for a long time call me up and go, hey, you're not going to believe what happened. I'm like, well, this is going to be a good story. She goes, well, I was at Walmart. I'm like, now this is going to be a really good story. And she tells me, hey, I did what you said. I drive through the parking lot and I look for creepers. And there's this dude that was just watching women coming in and out of the store. And when a woman would come out, he'd pay special attention to her. And he saw this other woman walking out with a kid in a child seat in the shopping cart. And I'm like, no, this is not. She goes, this is not right. And then next thing you know, the guy's trying to grab her purse and pull it away from her. As my friend's running up to him, smacks him in the head with her pistol and puts a couple of hand-to-hand moves on him, puts him down on the ground, and holds him there for security and police to arrive. I'm like, good for her. Like, good for you. You got involved.
That's awesome.
You know, and literally, she's been training now for about 6 years. And it's just, she's like, not on my watch. It's not going to happen.
That's so cool.
You know, and then she's like, okay, so I know that you said the adrenaline dump and all that stuff is one of the regular things and all that stuff. She goes, but when am I going to stop shaking?
Yeah.
I go, well, it's going to be a couple of hours before that happens, but you know, it's part of being involved in an encounter like that, where you have that massive adrenaline dump and that adrenaline has to get out of your system, you know, and it's just part of the process. You know, and I told her, hey, watch your sleep patterns over the next three or 4 days, because you're, you know, after being involved in something like that, you're going to sleep really well tonight and tomorrow, but then in 2 nights, the next 2 nights after that, you're not going to sleep very well at all, because you're going to be second guessing every little detail of what you could have done different. And she's like, oh, great. You know, but you know, the reality is, I'm just proud of her. She took the initiative to, number one, be trained, and number two, get involved to help defend somebody else. And she even said there were at least 10 people around just watching what was happening.
Probably with their cell phones out.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Videoing it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's where we need to remind everybody: get involved. Get involved. Society only gets safer when we take the initiative to keep it safe.
Yeah, literally, even just screaming at the person would be enough.
Yeah.
Hey, knock it off.
And there's so many different ways to stop those things. De-escalation, just verbal encounter. Like, we need to be more proactive to help our neighbor, to help our local group, whatever that means, wherever you are. So, guys, this episode's been all about getting engaged in your own protection, right? I want to thank Todd for being here, but you guys, if you're local, go down to his center and learn. If you're not local, find someone you can go to learn this from.
Reach out to me. I know people all across the United States that I can point you to.
What's your website for those that are listening so they can find you easily?
There's actually 2, nielsentraining.com and bpmfinc.com. Awesome. Either one of those,
we'll have that.
Shoot me a message at either one of those, and I'm more than happy to point you in the right direction to get some training.
We'll have it in the links too.
Sweet.
Yeah, guys, look in the notes of the links below. You will see both of those listed there. get in touch with Todd. He'll help you find the right solution. If you're local to Todd, he is the right solution. Like, go get over there. And I can say that confidently because I've seen the change, even though I haven't been to your trainings. I've seen the change in Paris.
Yes.
From him having gone to your training.
He's an awesome student. Let's just put it that way. He's open to learn.
He's eager to learn, but he's responsible. And that's the key, guys. It's your responsibility. No one is responsible for your safety except for you.
Yep.
Not even law enforcement, because they have to respond after the fact.
Yep.
So you need to take initiative. You need to take action in your own hands. Guys, this is Prepper Talk Radio. Radio for the ready-minded. That means taking action, learning, studying, being open, being situationally aware. Doesn't mean being paranoid. It means waking up to what's going on around you and just keeping your eyes peeled.
Yeah.
Listening. If something's out of place, pay attention to it.
Yes.
Those are the important things to do. So stay tuned. We're going to have another episode after this one with Todd. It's going to be even more fun because we're going to go into a deep dive into skills. And this is one of our favorite things to talk about. So stay tuned. We'll be back on the next episode with Todd. Thanks for being here this week, talking to us about personal safety training and implementation. You guys stay tuned. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow. Give us your feedback and join our group so you can ask questions and we can make that part of our next episode.
Actually, can I say a little something about the Facebook group that you guys have? It is absolutely amazing. You guys need to get into that.
Thank you.
All your subscribers, get involved in that Facebook group because it is absolutely amazing how much information is being exchanged there.
Thank you.
Thank you for that testimonial. All right, guys. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Thanks, Todd, for coming on.
You bet.